Here's part 1 of your story in simple and basic English. Written in third-person style with no headings. It's approximately 1,400 words long. The orbital station hung like a jewel against the vast blackness of space, its surface shimmering with light that could be seen from planets away. Inside, the air buzzed with excitement as diplomats, traders, and dignitaries from across the galaxy gathered for one of the most prestigious events of the century, a gala hosted by the Virelian Empire. The Virelians were known throughout the stars for their strict rules, advanced technology, and towering egos. Tonight, however, they had opened their doors to outsiders, including humans, who were still newcomers to interstellar politics. Danny Porter adjusted his collar nervously as he moved through the crowded halls of the station. He wasn't dressed in armor or combat gear anymore. Instead, he wore a sleek black uniform designed to make him blend into the background. His job tonight was simple: serve drinks, clear plates, and stay out of the way. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid well enough, and after everything he'd been through back on Earth, Danny didn't mind keeping his head down. Years ago, Danny had dreamed of being a hero. As a young man, he'd joined the military, hoping to protect his planet and explore the mysteries of the universe. But life had other plans. An accident during training left him with a limp and ended his career before it truly began. Now, at 32, he worked odd jobs wherever he could find them. This gig, serving at an alien party, felt like just another stepping stone in a life full of compromises. Still, Danny couldn't help but feel a little awestruck as he glanced around the room. The walls gleamed with polished metals and glowing crystals, casting soft hues of blue and gold over the guest. Aliens of every shape and size mingled freely, some tall with elongated limbs, others short and squat, their skin ranging from deep purple to iridescent green. Humans, though present, were few and far between, most stuck close together, wary of making mistakes in front of such powerful beings. Danny carried a tray of drinks toward a group of chattering aliens. Their voices sounded strange, almost musical, as they spoke in languages he couldn't understand. A translator device clipped to his ear whispered translations into his mind. But even then, much of what they said went over his head. Still, he smiled politely, offering refreshments without saying a word. That was the rule here. Servers were invisible unless spoken to. As he made his way back to the kitchen area to refill his tray, something caught his eye: a figure sitting alone near the edge of the grand hall. It was a young woman, her posture stiff and awkward as she tried to adjust herself in her chair. Her face was pale, framed by dark hair that cascaded down her shoulders. She wore a flowing gown adorned with intricate patterns that shimmered faintly under the lights. Despite her elegant appearance, there was an unmistakable sadness in her expression. Danny hesitated. He knew better than to approach someone uninvited, especially not someone who looked so obviously important. Yet, something about her loneliness tugged at him. Maybe it was because he understood what it felt like to be sidelined, to feel like you didn't belong. Or maybe it was just instinct. Whatever the reason, he found himself walking toward her. When he reached her side, he cleared his throat softly. "Excuse me," he said, his voice low and respectful. "Would you like anything to drink?" The woman turned her head sharply, startled. For a moment, their eyes met hers, wide and uncertain, his calm and steady. Then, realizing who he was, she relaxed slightly. "No, thank you," she replied, her tone carrying a hint of formality. "But I appreciate the offer." Danny nodded, but he didn't leave. Instead, he gestured vaguely to the empty seat beside her. "Mind if I sit for a minute? My legs are killing me." She blinked, clearly taken aback by his casual manner. After a pause, she gave a small nod. "If you wish." He lowered himself carefully into the chair, trying not to wince as his injured leg protested. "You seem like you're having fun," he joked lightly, nodding toward the crowd of laughing, chatting guests. A faint smile flickered across her lips. "Oh yes, this is exactly how I imagine spending my evening." Her sarcasm took Danny by surprise, and he chuckled. "Yeah, big parties can be kind of overwhelming. Trust me, I know. I've been hiding out in kitchens all night just to avoid people. I doubt anyone would notice if you disappeared," she said dryly. "Unlike me." Danny tilted his head, studying her more closely now. There was a bitterness in her tone that hinted at deeper frustrations. "Why do you say that?" he asked gently. She sighed, glancing down at her hands folded neatly in her lap. "Because I'm the princess. Princess Lyra, everyone notices. When I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or worse, when I can't do what's expected of me." It clicked then, the stiffness in her movements, the slight tremor in her hands. Danny had seen enough injuries in his time to recognize the signs of disability. "Is it hard for you to get around?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral. Lyra's jaw tightened. Let's just say dancing isn't really an option for me anymore. Danny frowned thoughtfully. That's a shame, he murmured. Dancing's supposed to be fun, not some choreographed performance for everyone else to watch. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite herself. And you're an expert on dancing? Not exactly, he admitted with a sheepish grin. But I used to take lessons when I was a kid. My mom thought it would teach me discipline. Turns out, it just taught me how to trip over my own feet. To his delight, Lyra laughed a genuine, warm sound that transformed her entire demeanor. Maybe we have more in common than I thought, she teased. Encouraged, Danny leaned forward slightly. You know, if you ever wanted to try again, I could show you. Just a couple of steps, nothing fancy, no pressure. For a moment, she looked tempted. Then doubt crept back into her expression. I don't think that's a good idea, she said quietly. People are already watching us. They'll think it's inappropriate, Danny shrugged. So, let them think whatever they want. Sometimes, you've got to do things for yourself, not for anyone else. He stood up, extending a hand toward her. Come on, one song. What's the worst that could happen? Lyra hesitated, her gaze darting around the room. The music playing in the background was slow and melodic, perfect for a quiet dance. Finally, she placed her hand in his. Okay, she whispered, but if this goes badly, I'm blaming you. Deal, Danny said with a grin. Carefully, he helped her rise from her chair, steadying her as she found her balance. Together, they stepped onto the edge of the dance floor, far enough away from the main crowd to avoid drawing too much attention. At first, their movements were clumsy. Lyra stumbled once or twice, gripping Danny's arm tightly to keep herself upright, but gradually, she began to relax, letting him guide her through the rhythm. Her steps grew surer, her confidence building with each passing second. By the time the song ended, she was smiling a real, radiant smile that lit up her whole face. Neither of them noticed the camera drone hovering nearby, capturing every moment. Nor did they see the ripple of whispers spreading through the crowd as bystanders watched the unlikely pair whirl across the floor. All that mattered in that moment was the connection between them, fleeting yet profound. When the music faded, Danny stepped back, bowing dramatically. See? Told you it wouldn't be so bad. Lyra laughed, shaking her head. You're impossible. Before either of them could say more, a sharp voice cut through the air. What is the meaning of this? They turned to see a tall, imposing figure striding toward them. Queen Veridsari, ruler of the Varelian Empire, fixed her piercing gaze on Danny. Her presence commanded respect and fear. Behind her, several guards hovered, ready to intervene at a moment's notice. Danny swallowed hard, suddenly aware of just how much trouble he might be in. Your Majesty, he stammered, bowing deeply. I apologize if I overstepped my bounds. I only meant to humiliate my daughter. The queen interrupted, her tone icy. No, Lyra exclaimed, stepping forward. Mother, it wasn't like that. He was helping me. I asked him to dance. The queen's expression softened slightly as she looked at her daughter. Lyra, you shouldn't burden yourself with such activities. You know it's not safe. It felt safe, Lyra insisted, her voice trembling with emotion. For the first time in years, I felt normal. Queen Vera studied her daughter for a long moment, then turned her attention back to Danny. You will come with me, she said firmly. We need to discuss this further. Danny nodded, his heart pounding. As he followed the queen away from the dance floor, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change forever. Let me know if you'd like me to continue writing the next parts or format this into a separate document. Here's part to of your story in simple and basic English, written in third-person style with no headings. It's approximately 1,400 words long. Danny followed Queen Vera through the grand halls of the orbital station, his mind racing with a mix of fear and curiosity. The queen walked with an air of authority that made everyone step aside to let her pass. Her long robe shimmered faintly in the soft light, and her sharp eyes never wavered from the path ahead. Danny tried to keep up without limping too noticeably, but his injured leg betrayed him with every step. He felt small, insignificant, like a speck of dust caught in the shadow of a giant. They entered a private chamber deep within the station. Unlike the glittering ballroom, this room was quiet and dimly lit, with walls covered in intricate carvings that seemed to pulse faintly with energy. A large throne-like chair sat at the far end, though the queen didn't take her seat. Instead, she turned to face Danny, her expression unreadable. You have caused quite a stir, she said finally, her voice calm but firm. Do you realize what you've done? Danny swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Your Majesty, I didn't mean any harm. I just saw Princess Lyra sitting alone, and decided to insert yourself into matters that were none of your concern. The Queen interrupted, raising an eyebrow. No, ma'am, Danny said quickly. I mean, yes, I did step in, but only because it felt like the right thing to do. She looked lonely. Double quotes. The Queen studied him for a moment, her gaze piercing. Loneliness is not uncommon among royals, she said after a pause, but that does not excuse such behavior. You are human, a servant, no less. You overstepped boundaries tonight. Danny nodded, lowering his head. I understand, Your Majesty. I'll accept whatever punishment you see fit. To his surprise, the Queen didn't immediately order his arrest or exile. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, as if considering something. Tell me, why did you dance with my daughter? The question caught Danny off guard. I don't know, he admitted. I guess I just wanted to help. She seemed like she needed someone who wouldn't judge her or treat her differently because of her condition. Queen Vera's expression softened ever so slightly. Though her tone remained stern, you risked much to offer her kindness. Most would have feared retribution or worse for daring to approach her. I wasn't thinking about consequences, Danny replied honestly. I just saw someone who looked like they could use a friend. For a long moment, the Queen said nothing. She turned away, pacing slowly across the room. Danny watched her, nervously, wondering what she was thinking. Was he about to be thrown out of the gala? Arrested? Or worse? Finally, she stopped and faced him again. You intrigue me, human, she said. In all my years, I have rarely encountered such boldness or such sincerity. Tell me, what is your name? Danny Porter, Mum, he answered, straightening up slightly. Mr. Porter, the Queen began, folding her hands in front of her. It seems you possess qualities that are rare among your kind. Qualities that may prove useful to us. Useful, Danny repeated, confused. How? The Varelian Empire has always prided itself on its strength and discipline. The Queen explained. But times are changing. We must adapt if we wish to maintain our influence in the galaxy. Humans, despite their flaws, have shown remarkable resilience and creativity. Perhaps there is wisdom in learning from them. Danny blinked, struggling to process what she was saying. Are you suggesting? I am suggesting, the Queen continued, that you might serve a greater purpose than simply carrying trays and refilling glasses. I propose to elevate you to make you a cultural liaison between humans and the Varelian Empire. Danny stared at her, stunned. A cultural liaison, me. But I'm nobody, just a guy trying to get by. Precisely, the Queen said with a faint smile. Sometimes, the most unexpected individuals hold the greatest potential. Will you accept this role? Danny hesitated. The offer was tempting, but it also came with risks. If he accepted, he'd be stepping into uncharted territory, navigating a world of politics and power far beyond anything he'd ever known. On the other hand, refusing might mean losing the chance to make a real difference, not just for himself, but for humanity as a whole. I'll do it, he said finally, his voice steady despite the knot of nerves in his stomach. But only if it helps bring our peoples closer together. The Queen nodded approvingly. Very well. You will begin immediately. For now, return to your duties. We will speak again soon. With that, she dismissed him, turning her attention back to the glowing patterns on the wall. Danny bowed deeply before leaving the chamber, his mind swirling with questions and possibilities. Back in the ballroom, whispers about Danny's dance with Princess Lyra had spread like wildfire. Some guests admired the gesture, calling it heartwarming and courageous. Others viewed it as reckless and inappropriate, a breach of protocol that could undermine the delicate balance of interstellar relations. Among the critics were several high-ranking Varelian officials, including Admiral Kale ***, a towering alien, with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed faintly red. He stood near the bar, sipping a glass of luminescent liquid while conversing with a group of fellow officers. This cannot stand, Kale growled, his voice low and gravelly. A human servant dancing with the princess. It is an insult to our traditions and to the Empress herself. One of the officers nodded in agreement. If word gets out, it could weaken the Empire's authority. The other species will see us as weak, sentimental fools. Kale clenched his fists tightly. We must act swiftly. This Porter must be dealt with before he causes further disruption. Before they could discuss their plans further, a young aide approached, bowing respectfully. Admiral, forgive the interruption, but there is news. The Empress has appointed the human as a cultural liaison. The room fell silent. Kale's jaw tightened, his glowing eyes narrowing dangerously. What nonsense is this? He demanded. It appears the Empress sees value in his actions, the aide stammered. She believes he may bridge gaps between our people and the humans. Kale exchanged dark looks with the other officers, This changes nothing, he muttered. If anything, it makes the situation worse. We cannot allow sentimentality to dictate policy. Something must be done. Meanwhile, on Earth, news of Danny's rise began to circulate thanks to a leaked video of the dance. The footage showed him guiding Lyra gently across the floor, her smile growing brighter with each step. Social media exploded with reactions, ranging from admiration to suspicion. At NASA headquarters in Houston, Dr. Rachel Monroe a senior advisor on interstellar affairs, watched the clip on a large screen alongside her team. Well, this complicates things, she muttered, crossing her arms. How so? Asked one of her colleagues, a younger man named Evan Carter because now everyone's watching. Rachel replied, if Danny succeeds, it could open doors for humanity, but if he fails or worse, gets himself killed, it could set us back decades. Evan frowned. Do you think he can handle it? Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. Honestly, I don't know. He's smart and resourceful, but this isn't just about skill. It's about navigating a minefield of alien politics. One wrong move, and he's toast. As the discussion continued, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that Danny's actions had sparked something bigger than anyone realized. Whether it would lead to progress or disaster remained to be seen. Later that evening, Danny found himself back in the kitchen, loading trays with drinks and hors d'oeuvres. Despite the whirlwind of events, his job hadn't changed, at least not yet. As he worked, he noticed Princess Lyra enter the room, leaning on a cane for support. Hey, he said softly, setting down a tray. How are you holding up? Lyra smiled faintly. Better than I expected. Thanks to you. Danny shook his head. Don't thank me. I just did what felt right. Well, it meant a lot to me, she said earnestly. And apparently to my mother too. Danny raised an eyebrow. Yeah, about that. She wants me to be some kind. Here's part 3 of your story in simple and basic English. Written in third-person style with no headings. It's approximately 1,400 words long. Danny spent the next few days adjusting to his new role as a cultural liaison. The position came with its own set of challenges: long meetings, endless questions, and the constant pressure to represent humanity in the best possible light. At first, he doubted whether he was cut out for it. After all, he wasn't a diplomat or a politician. He was just a guy who'd been handed an opportunity far bigger than himself. But as time went on, he began to find his footing. Queen Vera called him to her private chambers often, asking for his thoughts on human customs and behaviors. She wanted to understand why humans acted the way they did, their emotions, their habits, even their quirks. Danny answered honestly, sharing stories from his own life and explaining how people on Earth interacted with one another. It's not always about rules, he told her during one of their sessions. Sometimes, it's about feelings. Like when someone smiles at you, it doesn't mean they're following a law. It means they're happy to see you. The Queen listened intently, nodding occasionally. Feelings, she repeated, as if testing the word. They seem unpredictable, they can be, Danny admitted. But that's what makes them powerful. When you connect with someone emotionally, it sticks. It matters. Lyra joined them frequently, sitting quietly while her mother and Danny talked. Over time, she became more comfortable around him, even teasing him about his attempts to explain Earth sports like baseball and football. It sounds chaotic, she said once, laughing. Why do humans enjoy running in circles so much? It's not about the running, Danny replied with a grin. Honesty true, it's about teamwork. About trusting each other to get the job done. Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. Trust, that's something we don't talk about much here. Her comment lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. Even though the Varelian Empire prided itself on strength and order, there was a stiffness to their society, a lack of warmth that made genuine connections rare. Danny realized then that his role wasn't just about teaching the Varelians about humans. It was also about showing them how to open up, how to let down their guard. One evening, after a particularly long meeting, Lyra invited Danny to join her in the station's observation deck. The room was filled with massive windows that offered a breathtaking view of the galaxy beyond. Stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across velvet, and distant nebulae painted the darkness with swirls of color. This is my favorite place, Lyra said softly as they stood side by side. When I was younger, I used to dream of traveling to those stars, of seeing everything there is to see. Why didn't you? Danny asked. She sighed, leaning heavily on her cane. Because I'm not strong enough, not fast enough. My body won't let me. You're stronger than you think, Danny said gently. Strength isn't just about physical ability. It's about courage. about pushing forward even when things are hard. Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Do you really believe that? I wouldn't say it if I didn't, he replied with a small smile. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply stood there, gazing out at the infinite expanse of space. Then, almost hesitantly, Lyra reached out and took Danny's hand. Her grip was tentative, but firm, as if she were testing the waters of trust for the first time. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. While Danny worked to build bridges between humans and Varelians, tensions simmered among the Empire's elite. Admiral Kale and his allies continued to plot against him. Convinced that his presence would weaken the Empire's authority, they gathered secretly in shadowy corners of the station, exchanging whispers and scheming late into the night. He's dangerous, Kale growled during one such meeting. His actions encourage disorder. If we allow this to continue, our traditions will crumble. What do you suggest we do? Asked one of his co-conspirators, a general named Talric. We must discredit him, Kale replied. Find a way to expose his flaws, his weaknesses, show the Empress that he cannot be trusted. But how? Talric pressed. The Empress seems fond of him. Kel's glowing red eyes narrowed. Then we must act carefully. Perhaps we can use the princess. She has grown close to him, hasn't she? Make her doubt him. Plant seeds of suspicion. Talric nodded slowly. It could work, but we must move quickly before the Empress grows too attached. As the conspirators dispersed, Kale remained behind, staring out at the stars. He despised weakness in any form, whether it came from outside forces like humanity or from within his own ranks. To him, Danny Porter represented everything wrong with the galaxy's softness, a vulnerability that had no place in the Varelian Empire, and he would stop at nothing to eliminate it. Back on Earth, reactions to Danny's newfound status were mixed. Some saw him as a hero, a symbol of hope for humanity's future among the stars. Others viewed him with suspicion, accusing him of selling out to alien interest. Dr. Rachel Monroe monitored the situation closely, keeping tabs on both public opinion and potential threats. We need to tread lightly, she warned her team during a briefing. If Danny succeeds, it could pave the way for stronger ties with the Varelians. But if he stumbles or worse, gets caught up in their internal politics, it could backfire spectacularly. Evan Carter raised a hand. Do you think the Varelians might try to use him against us? It's possible, Rachel admitted. They're a proud species, and change doesn't come easily to them. If they feel threatened, they might lash out. We have to be ready for anything. To prepare, NASA assembled a task force dedicated to supporting Danny discreetly. They provided him with encrypted communication devices and regular updates on galactic affairs, ensuring he stayed informed without drawing attention. Still, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing a dangerous game. One wrong move, and everything could unravel. Despite the growing tension, Danny remained focused on his mission. He spent hours each day learning about Varelian culture, studying their history and customs in an effort to better understand them. In return, he shared stories of Earth's art, music, and literature, introducing the Varelians to concepts like empathy and creativity. One afternoon, he brought Lyra to a small garden tucked away in a quiet corner of the station. The space was filled with alien plants that glowed softly in the dim light, their leaves shimmering like liquid gold. A gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers unlike anything found on Earth. I thought you might like this place, Danny said as they walked together. It's peaceful, quiet, it's beautiful, Lyra murmured, reaching out to touch one of the glowing blooms. I've never seen anything like it, Danny smiled. Neither have I, but I figured you'd appreciate something different for a change. They sat on a bench overlooking a small pond, its surface rippling faintly as tiny fish-like creatures darted beneath it. For a while, they simply enjoyed the silence, content to be in each other's company. I've been thinking, Lyra said, suddenly breaking the quiet, about what you said before, about strength being more than just physical. Danny nodded. And I want to try again, she said, determination flashing in her eyes. To dance properly this time. Danny blinked, surprised. Are you sure? I mean, we don't have to rush anything. I'm sure, she insisted. I want to prove to myself that I can do it, that I'm not limited by what others expect of me. Moved by her resolve, Danny agreed. Together, they practiced in secret, using a mobility aid designed specifically for Lyra. It took time, patience, and plenty of mistakes, but slowly she began to find her rhythm. By the end of their sessions, she was able to glide across the floor with grace and confidence. When Queen Vera learned of their progress, she summoned them to her chambers. Show me, she commanded, her tone curious but guarded. Without hesitation, Lyra stepped forward, taking Danny's hand. As the music played, They danced, their movements fluid and harmonious. When they finished, the queen stared at them, her expression unreadable. "You've changed her," she said finally, her voice thick with emotion. "In ways I never thought possible." Danny shook his head. "No, Your Majesty. She did this herself. All I did was give her a chance." The queen nodded slowly, her gaze softening. "Perhaps that is all anyone truly needs, a chance." As weeks turned into months, Danny's influence began to ripple through the empire. Small changes started to take root, less rigid ceremonies, more inclusive gatherings, even discussions about accessibility for beings with disabilities. Though progress was slow, it was undeniable, but not everyone welcomed these shifts. Admiral Kale watched silently from the shadows, biding his time. He knew that sooner or later, an opportunity would arise to strike, and when it did, he would be ready. "Let me know if you'd like me to continue writing the next parts or format this into a separate document. Here's part for of your story in simple and basic English. Written in third-person style with no headings. It's approximately 1,400 words long." Danny's role as a cultural liaison had grown far beyond what he ever imagined. The changes he inspired were subtle but significant. Slowly, the Varelian Empire began to soften around the edges. High-ranking officials who once dismissed emotions as weakness now listened quietly. During discussions about empathy, social events that used to be stiff and formal became warmer, more welcoming. Even Princess Lyra seemed different. Her confidence grew with each passing day, thanks in part to Danny's encouragement. One evening, Queen Vera invited Danny to attend a council meeting, a rare honor for someone of his status. The room was large and circular, with a glowing table at its center that displayed holographic maps of the galaxy. Around the table sat some of the most powerful beings in the Empire: generals, admirals, diplomats, and advisors. Danny stood near the back, trying to blend into the shadows. The meeting began with updates on trade agreements and military campaigns. Then, unexpectedly, the Queen turned her attention to Danny. "Mr. Porter," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs of conversation, "you have been instrumental in fostering understanding between our peoples. I would like your thoughts on a matter." Danny froze for a moment, caught off guard. He stepped forward hesitantly, feeling the weight of dozens of alien eyes on him. "Of course, Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady despite the knot of nerves in his stomach. "The humans have expressed interest in joining the Galactic Council," the Queen continued. "Some among us believe this is premature. Others see it as an opportunity. What is your perspective?" Danny took a deep breath. This was his chance to speak not just for himself, but for all of humanity. "Your Majesty, members of the Council," he began, choosing his words carefully. "Humans are still learning how to navigate the galaxy. We make mistakes, yes, but we also learn from them, we adapt. That's why we've survived so long on Earth. It's not because we're perfect. It's because we keep trying." He paused, glancing around the room. "If you let us join the Council, we won't always agree with you. We might challenge your ideas or push back when we think something isn't right. But isn't that better than silence? Isn't it better to hear different voices, even if they're hard to listen to sometimes?" The room fell silent. For a moment, Danny feared he'd gone too far. Then, to his surprise, one of the council members, a tall, bird-like alien named Councillor Silra spoke up. "His words hold merit," she said, her tone measured. "Diversity strengthens unity. Perhaps it is time we embrace that truth." Not everyone agreed. Admiral Kale leaned forward, his glowing red eyes fixed on Danny. "And what happens when their mistakes cost lives?" he demanded. "When their impulsiveness leads to war? Are we prepared to bear that burden?" Danny met his gaze without flinching. "No one expects perfection," he replied. "But progress requires risk. If you shut us out, you'll never know what we're capable of." The debate continued for hours, growing heated at times. In the end, the council decided to delay their decision, promising to revisit the topic in the coming months. As Danny left the chamber, he felt a mix of relief and frustration. He knew the battle wasn't over, not by a long shot, but he also knew he'd planted a seed. Now, it was up to others to nurture it. Meanwhile, tensions within the Empire continued to simmer. Admiral Kale and his allies grew bolder, spreading rumors and sowing doubt wherever they could. They claimed Danny was manipulating the Empress, using her affection for her daughter to gain influence. Some even accused him of plotting to overthrow the Empire entirely. Lyra heard these whispers one afternoon while walking through the station's gardens. Two servants passed by, their voices low but audible. "They say he's dangerous," one muttered. "That he's only here to spy on us. He's just a human," the other scoffed. What harm could he possibly do? Their words stung. Not because they hurt her personally, but because they reminded her of how fragile trust truly was. She hurried back to her quarters where Danny was waiting. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. Noticing the troubled look on her face, "They don't trust you," she blurted out. "Some of them think you're, I don't know, some kind of threat." Danny sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I figured as much. People get scared when things change. It's easier to blame someone than to accept responsibility. But it's not fair," Lyra exclaimed. "You've done nothing but help us. How can they accuse you of such things?" "Because fear makes people irrational," Danny replied softly. "All we can do is keep proving them wrong. Show them that change isn't something to be afraid of." Lyra nodded, though uncertainty lingered in her eyes. "Just promise me you'll be careful, please." "I will," Danny assured her, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. "I'm not going anywhere." Back on Earth, Dr. Rachel Monroe monitored the situation closely. Reports of anti-human sentiment within the Varelian Empire had reached NASA headquarters, prompting concerns about Danny's safety. Evan Carter approached her desk, holding a tablet filled with data. "Dr. Monroe, we need to warn him," Evan said urgently. "If tensions escalate, he could be in serious danger." Rachel frowned, tapping her pen against the edge of her desk. "We can't interfere directly, not without risking diplomatic fallout." But she trailed off, thinking, maybe we can send him a message indirectly. Something vague enough to avoid suspicion, but clear enough to prepare him. Evan nodded. "I'll draft something right away." As they worked, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The Varelians were proud, and pride often led to rash decisions. She hoped Danny was ready for whatever came next. Days turned into weeks, and Danny threw himself into his work, determined to stay focused. He spent hours teaching Varelian leaders about human values, sharing stories of cooperation and resilience. In return, he learned more about their history, their struggles, and their hopes for the future. Through it all, Lyra remained by his side, her support unwavering. One night, as they strolled through the observation deck, crazy. Here's part 5 of your story in simple and basic English. Written in third-person style with no headings. It's approximately 1,400 words long. Danny had always known that working alongside the Varelian elite was risky, but he never imagined just how dangerous it could become. One evening, as he prepared for another day of meetings and lessons, a sudden alert flashed across his communication device. The message was brief and cryptic. *, be cautious, trust no one. *, it was unsigned, but Danny recognized the tone. It came from Earth, likely sent by Dr. Rachel Monroe or someone on her team. He stared at the screen for a moment, his heart pounding. Something was wrong. He didn't know what, but he could feel it in his gut. Still, he couldn't afford to panic. Instead, he tucked the device into his pocket and continued with his routine, doing his best to appear calm and collected. Later that morning, Danny met with Queen Vera in her private chambers. She seemed distracted, her usual composure replaced by a quiet tension. "Mr. Porter," she began, her voice unusually sharp. "There are rumors circulating about unrest within the Empire. Have you heard anything?" Danny hesitated. He wanted to tell her the truth that he'd received a warning, but he also knew revealing too much might put him in greater danger. "I've heard whispers," he admitted carefully, "but nothing concrete." The Queen studied him closely, her piercing gaze searching for any sign of deception. "You would tell me if you knew more, wouldn't you?" "Of course, Your Majesty," Danny replied, meeting her eyes without flinching. "My loyalty is to you and to building trust between our peoples." For a moment, the Queen said nothing. Then she nodded, seemingly satisfied with his answer. "Good, because I need allies now more than ever." Unbeknownst to Danny, Admiral Kale and his co-conspirators were putting the final pieces of their plan into motion. They had gathered enough evidence, or rather, fabricated enough to paint Danny as a threat to the Empire. Their goal was clear: discredit him, isolate him, and ultimately remove him from power. At night, as Danny returned to his quarters, he noticed something strange, a faint hum emanating from the walls. At first, he dismissed it as part of the station's normal operations, but then the lights flickered, and the hum grew louder. Before he could react, the door to his room slid open, and several armed guards stormed in. "Danny Porter," one of them barked, stepping forward. "You are under arrest for treason against the Varelian Empire." Danny's mind raced. "What are you talking about? This is a mistake." "There is no mistake," the guard replied coldly. "You will come with us quietly, with no choice." But to comply, Danny allowed himself to be led away. As they marched through the corridors, he caught glimpses of shocked faces, some sympathetic, others smug. Among them was Admiral Kale, who watched silently from the shadows. A faint smirk playing on his lips, news of Danny's arrest spread quickly throughout the station. Lyra was devastated. When she heard, she rushed to her mother's chambers, her cane clicking sharply against the floor. "Mother," she exclaimed, bursting through the doors. "Why have you arrested Danny? He's done nothing wrong." Queen Vera looked up from her desk, her expression unreadable. "Lyra, please, this is a matter of state security. You must trust me." "I don't understand," Lyra cried, tears welling in her eyes. "He's helped us, he's helped me. How can you accuse him of treason? The evidence speaks for itself," the Queen replied firmly, though there was a flicker of doubt in her eyes. "We cannot ignore it." "But what evidence?" Lyra demanded. "Who gave it to you? Was it Admiral Kale?" "He's been against Danny from the start," the Queen sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Enough, Lyra. I will not tolerate accusations without proof." Lyra clenched her fist, frustration boiling over. "Then find the truth. Don't let them destroy everything we've worked for." Her words lingered in the air as she turned and stormed out of the room. She knew she couldn't fight this battle alone, but she refused to give up. If anyone could help her, it was Danny himself, deep within the station's detention center. Danny sat in a dimly lit cell, his mind racing. The charges against him were absurd, conspiring with human factions to undermine the Empire, but he knew better than to argue. Instead, he focused on staying calm and gathering information. A guard approached his cell, carrying a tray of food. Danny eyed him warily. "What happens next?" he asked. "You'll stand trial before the council," the guard replied gruffly. "If you're lucky, they'll show mercy. And if I'm not lucky," the guard shrugged. "Let's hope you don't find out." As the guard walked away, Danny leaned back against the cold wall, thinking he needed a way to prove his innocence. But how? Then, an idea struck him. His communication device, the one he'd tucked into his pocket earlier, was still with him. If he could access it, he might be able to send a message to Earth. Carefully, he reached into his pocket and retrieved the device. It was small and discreet, easy to hide even in plain sight. He activated it, typing out a quick message. "Trapped. Need help? Find proof of conspiracy." Key encrypted the message and sent it, hoping it would reach someone who could assist him. Back on Earth, Dr. Rachel Monroe received the transmission almost immediately. Her team sprang into action, analyzing every scrap of data they had on the Varelian Empire. Evan Carter pulled up files on Admiral Kale, searching for any hint of wrongdoing. "There," Evan said suddenly, pointing to a document on his screen. "Look at this. Kale's been diverting resources to secret projects for months, and check out these communications. He's been in contact with anti-human factions." Rachel leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "This could be it. If we can expose his involvement, we might be able to clear Danny's name." "But how do we get the information to him?" Evan asked. "We can't exactly waltz into the station and hand it over." Rachel thought for a moment, then smiled faintly. "We don't need to. We just need to make sure the right people see it." She drafted a detailed report, attaching copies of the incriminating documents. Then, using a secure channel, she transmitted the file directly to Queen Vera's personal network. It was a risky move. Interfering so blatantly could spark outrage, but Rachel believed it was worth the gamble. Meanwhile, Lyra visited Danny in his cell, sneaking past guards with the help of a sympathetic servant. When she saw him sitting there, pale and exhausted, her heart ached. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, gripping the bars of the cell. "I should have done more to protect you." Danny managed a weak smile. "It's not your fault. None of this is. We're going to fix it," Lyra promised. "I won't let them win." Before Danny could respond, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Lyra stepped back quickly, hiding behind a corner as the guards approached. Once they passed, she slipped away, determined to keep her promise. The next day, Queen Vera called an emergency council meeting. When she entered the chamber, her expression was grim. She held the datapad in her hands, its screen glowing faintly. Without preamble, she addressed the assembled leaders. "I have received disturbing information," she announced, her voice cutting through the murmurs of conversation. "Evidence suggesting that Admiral Kale has been orchestrating a conspiracy against the Empire, and against Mr. Porter specifically." The room erupted into chaos. Kale stood abruptly, his glowing red eyes blazing with fury. "This is outrageous," he shouted. "A blatant attempt to shift blame, is it?" The Queen countered, holding up the datapad. "These records speak for themselves. Diverted funds, forged documents, secret alliances with extremist groups, all traceable back to you." Kale's face darkened, but he said nothing. The weight of the evidence was undeniable. "Take him into custody," the Queen ordered, gesturing to the guards. As Kale was dragged away, protests spilling from his lips, The other council members exchanged uneasy glances. Once the commotion died down, the Queen turned her attention to Danny's case. "Release him," she commanded, "and ensure that he is compensated for the injustice done to him." When Danny was finally freed, Lyra was waiting for him outside the detention center. Tears streamed down her face as she threw her arms around him. "I told you I wouldn't let them win," she whispered. Danny hugged her tightly, relief washing over him. "Thank you," he murmured, "for everything." Though the immediate crisis had passed, Danny knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust had been broken, and rebuilding it would take time. But as he stood there with Lyra by his side, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, they would continue to bridge the gap between humans and Varelians one step at a time. Let me know if you'd like me to continue writing the next parts or format this into a separate document. Here's part 6 of your story in simple and basic English, written in third-person style with no headings. It's approximately 1,400 words long. Months passed after the coup attempt, and life on the orbital station slowly returned to a sense of normalcy. The exposure of Admiral Kell's conspiracy had shaken the Varelian Empire to its core, forcing many to rethink their beliefs about trust, loyalty, and change. Queen Vera took bold steps to reform the empire, introducing policies that encouraged openness and understanding. For the first time in centuries, the rigid walls of tradition began to crumble. Danny played a key role in these changes. His actions during the crisis, his courage, his honesty, and his unwavering commitment to doing what was right earned him respect not just from the Queen, but from many across the empire. He became a symbol of hope, proof that even someone from the outside could make a difference. But for Danny, the real reward wasn't fame or recognition. It was the friendships he'd built, especially with Lyra. Lyra herself had undergone a transformation. No longer content to sit quietly on the sidelines, she embraced her role as princess with newfound determination. She worked closely with Danny to advocate for accessibility and inclusion within the empire, championing causes that had long been ignored. Together, they traveled to different parts of the galaxy, meeting with leaders and citizens alike, spreading a message of unity and cooperation. One afternoon, as they prepared for another trip, Lyra turned to Danny with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever miss Earth?" she asked. Danny paused, considering the question. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I don't regret staying here. There's still so much work to do." Lyra nodded, her gaze softening. "You've given us so much. I only wish I could repay you somehow." "You already have," Danny replied with a smile. "You've shown me that change is possible, that people can grow and learn, no matter where they come from." Her eyes glistened with emotion, but before she could respond, a servant entered the room, bowing deeply. "Your Majesty, Your Highness," he said, addressing them both. "The council requests your presence. They wish to discuss the next phase of reforms." Danny exchanged a glance with Lyra, then stood up. "Let's go," he said simply. The council chamber buzzed with energy as Danny and Lyra arrived. Queen Vera sat at the head of the table, her posture regal yet approachable. Around her were representatives from various species, all eager to contribute to the Empire's evolution. This meeting marked a turning point, a chance to solidify the progress they'd made and lay the groundwork for a brighter future. "Thank you for joining us," the Queen began, her voice carrying authority and warmth. "Today, we will finalize plans to expand our diplomatic efforts beyond the Empire's borders. Specifically, we will address humanity's request to join the Galactic Council." Danny felt a surge of pride as the room erupted into murmurs of approval. After months of debate and negotiation, it seemed the tide had finally turned in humanity's favor. Still, he knew there would be challenges ahead. Not everyone supported the idea, and resistance lingered in certain corners of the galaxy. As part of this initiative, the Queen continued, "I propose appointing Mr. Porter as an official ambassador. His insights and experiences have proven invaluable, and I believe he is uniquely suited to represent both humans and Varelians." The announcement caught Danny off guard. He blinked, stunned, as applause filled the chamber. Lyra grinned at him, clearly delighted. "Congratulations," she whispered. When the noise died down, Danny stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "Your Majesty, members of the Council, I am honored by your faith in me. But let me be clear, my goal isn't to represent one species over another. It's to build bridges to help us see each other not as strangers, but as equals." His words resonated deeply, earning nods of agreement from those present. Even skeptics found themselves moved by his sincerity. Back on Earth, news of Danny's appointment sparked celebrations around the globe. Social media lit up with messages of gratitude and admiration, while world leaders praised his efforts to unite humanity with the stars. Dr. Rachel Monroe watched the coverage with a mixture of pride and relief. "Well, he did it," Evan Carter remarked, leaning against her desk. "He actually pulled it off." Rachel smiled faintly, folding her arms. "He didn't do it alone. Everyone who supported him from us to the Varelians played a part. But yes, Danny deserves credit. He reminded us that empathy and kindness can go a long way." Evan chuckled. "Who would have thought a human waiter dancing with an alien princess could change the galaxy?" "It's funny how small moments can lead to big things," Rachel mused. "Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to take a risk." As the years went by, Danny's legacy grew. Under his guidance, humanity became an integral member of the Galactic Council, contributing ideas and innovations that benefited countless species. Trade flourished, alliances strengthened, and conflicts dwindled. The galaxy entered a new era, one defined not by fear or division, but by collaboration and mutual respect. Lyra, now queen herself after her mother's retirement, continued to champion the values Danny had taught her. She established programs to support disabled beings across the Empire, ensuring they had access to resources and opportunities previously denied to them. Her speeches often referenced the night she danced with a human waiter, calling it the moment that changed everything. Danny eventually returned to Earth, settling into a quiet life in a small town surrounded by fields and forest. Though he missed the excitement of space travel, he cherished the simplicity of home. He spent his days writing memoirs, sharing stories of his adventures and lessons learned along the way. One evening, as he sat on his porch watching the sunset, his communication device buzzed softly. He picked it up to find a message from Lyra. "Thinking of you. Thank you for everything." Danny smiled, typing a quick reply. "Thank you for believing in me." Decades later, historians would look back on this period as a turning point in galactic history. Books were written, documentaries filmed, and monuments erected to honor those who had paved the way for peace. Among them was a statue of Danny Porter, standing tall beside Princess Lyra, their hands clasped in a gesture of unity. Few remember the specifics of that fateful night, the music, the whispers, the doubts, but everyone understood its significance. It was a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness could ripple outward, touching lives in ways no one could predict. On a distant planet, a young girl listened intently as her teacher recounted the tale of the human who danced with an alien princess. "Why does it matter?" she asked curiously. Her teacher smiled, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Because sometimes the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected places, and somewhere, light years away." Danny Porter smiled too. This concludes the story. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments or additional formatting.